Funding for NEOtropolis has been provided by the following.
Hello, I'm Lester Lefton. Kent State University is proud to sponsor NEOtropolis, a program that looks at the forces that impact the region. Kent State is one of those forces. As a center of educational excellence and as an economic development engine, our efforts at Kent State have a powerful and positive impact on the region through research and development, the arts and innovation, and preparing our graduates to compete in the global marketplace. I hope you enjoy the program, and I invite you to learn more about Kent State University.
The John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, supporting transformational ideas that promote informed and engaged communities.
Hello and welcome to NEOtropolis, the show about the forces of technology, globalization, and diversity, how they affect our lives right here in Northeast Ohio. I'm Luke Frazier. Tonight we look at startups and new ideas, the world of entrepreneurs and what it means to take a risk. Put yourself out there, declare to the world this is what you've got. We'll talk with two guys who took a ride on something called the StartupBus. We'll also visit with a guy who makes custom bats in Cleveland and take a look at an entrepreneur lab in Elyria. NEOtropolis is looking for investors. Why not invest some time with us tonight? Tonight's episode is called Intrepid Entrepreneurs. Joining me now, NEOtropolis contributor Erin Hollenbaugh. Welcome.
Thank you.
You're assistant professor of communication studies at KSU Stark.
Yes.
There's so many KSU campuses.
There are.
I get confused.
Yeah.
So we're doing this show on entrepreneurs, and I thought of you, right?
Yeah, sure.
You've started lots of businesses.
No, none, unfortunately.
Well, the reason I thought of you was, one thing about entrepreneurship is that you have to declare yourself to be an entrepreneur, right? You have to claim it.
Right.
And you study social media and blogging. What is the intersection there?
Yeah, I think that blogging and other forms of social media are a great place where you can really proclaim your identity, right? That you can take a stand and create some sort of identity that you want to put out there to the world. And it's also a free way to do that in most cases, which is nice.
That is very nice for a startup, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, this notion of identity and how we really declare ourselves, how we say to others, and one way we can say to others, there's lots of ways, but we can take out a full-page ad in the New York Times, right? But that's really expensive. So this social media connection is really interesting. Do you know of any sites that have really a connection to social media, blogging, and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, an alumni of Kent State University is working on a business right now called the Elder Power, where he's creating a website that will bring together information that serves as a resource for people who are elderly and are in need of care or caregivers for the elderly. And so what he's doing is, he hasn't launched his website yet, but in the meantime, he's building buzz, right? He's got a Facebook page. He's starting to create more of an interest about the website that's coming up.
Yeah, well, that seems to be a key, too, is that buzz, that visibility, that sense of something's happening.
Yeah, and personability too. Social media is one way that we can really portray a connection that is much more personable and real than we might have through like a print ad, for example.
And besides the declaration, it has to be something that is a market need. You think your alumni or whatever was aging population.
Yeah,
in Northeast Ohio as well as everywhere else. There's a market for that.
Yeah. And you could argue that, you could even use social media to tweak that product that you are putting out there as well. If it's
tweet
in
tweak?
Okay. Or tweet about. But, as you are working in developing that product, you could take that chance for some free feedback from the people out there to see, to kind of market test your product before you actually have to launch it.
Yeah. Real quick now, I know you're a professor, so you like doing research.
I do. I love it.
In communication studies, what would you want to look at in terms of blogging and declarations of identity that might...
Well, I have a couple ideas. One thing that's unique about communication as compared to like psychology, for example, is that we focus pretty centrally on the message. Right, that our research is largely about what are the messages that are sent. So I would be really curious to see in what sorts of ways can you frame that discussion with a public when it comes to launching an idea when you're an entrepreneur. What sorts of messages are most effective, which ones don't really hit in the same kind of way. But based on my line of research, I'd also very much be interested in looking at individual characteristics that sort of set apart the winners from the losers, right? So first of all, what kind of person is willing to take that risk, as you mentioned in the beginning, right? Put themselves out there and even do so in a social media kind of landscape. But secondly, again, what are the cues that separate the people who do it successfully and those who don't?
So you may want to know that. What I want to know is, what you think about the idea of entrepreneurs and how entrepreneurs come together and declare their identities. But we have a specific question. What's the question for tonight?
We do. Tonight's question is, what great idea did you once come up with but didn't do anything about? And then someone else made it a success.
Okay. Well, if you want to get in touch, here's how you do it. You can do any kinds of Facebook and other social media, of course. But I want you to text tonight. It's new. You can text your ideas 440-345-6745. 440-345-6745. Thanks, Erin. We'll talk to you at the end of the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Be part of the conversation. Follow us on Twitter at NEOtropolis TV and on Facebook, YouTube, and Google+. When you visit neotropolis.org, check out the archives and sign up for our e-newsletter.
So Erin and I were talking about how entrepreneurs get it going. And there's one unique way some budding businesses types hit the road to generate ideas while the tires were hitting the road too. It was something called the StartupBus. And before we talk to two participants, here's a little bit of what it sounded and looked like.
Hey, Luke, I think we're in Texas. We're actually not sure. We may still be in Louisiana. We had a huge detour today. We ended up on the dirt roads in western Louisiana for over an hour. But the good part was it improved our Wi-Fi connection. So everybody was really happy about that.
Excellent. Well, tell me, what's, we had some ideas. You had some ideas percolating. You did some pivoting yesterday with some of these companies. What's the action today?
Yeah, today everybody's kind of hunkered down and they're honing in. Tomorrow is the pitch. So this is it. We're rounding third and heading home.
So one of the people joining me now is that guy you just saw on the screen, and he's going to talk about his experiences. Thomas Mulready from Cool Cleveland, and Chris Cutter, an entrepreneur who was on the bus. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Luke.
Appreciate you being here. So let's start with you, Thomas. What was this process about? I mean, it was a startup bus, and they had a whole organization around it?
Yeah, this is like the third year they've done it. The first year there was just one bus, and the second year there were about 5. This year there were 10 buses leaving from everywhere from San Francisco to Boston to New York, Miami. Our bus left from Columbus. And we get on the bus, you get 72 hours, you get 3 days. You haven't met any of these other 30-some people. I never met Chris before in my life. And you got to start up a company, or in our case, with the 32 we had on our bus, we started up 7 companies in 3 days before we got to Austin,
Nice.
Texas for South by Southwest.
Nice. Chris, how did you learn about the bus? What got you interested?
Well, actually, my friend Scott Meyer and a couple other locals from Akron and Cleveland had actually ridden on the Ohio bus last year, and they said it was, a wildly rewarding opportunity, told me to take advantage of it. So my roommate / business partner and I decided we'd put our hats in the ring, and actually within a week, we both got emails from the founder saying we'd love for you to take part, just fill out the application, go through the process. And so that was basically what got me on.
Nice. I mean, what was that moment? You heard us talking a little bit about, that identity and how we declare ourselves to be something like an entrepreneur. What was the moment when you said, you know what, I'm going to go for this?
Well, I might be atypical because I think I was in like the 7th grade. I was deciding I gotta be an entrepreneur, but recently it decided that it had to be a local tech entrepreneur, and that's kind of what the StartupBus is about. It's a web-based thing, and so that moment was probably when I moved back here from college, went to the University of South Carolina, and I just had no local contacts and no network. I found myself wandering into a coffee shop and made connections with some tech guys, and that took me from there.
Nice. So that kind of relationship building, yeah. Now, Thomas, you and I actually, Western Reserve Public Media and you on the bus did some things where we checked in on the journey. Talk about that. I mean, how you were able to describe what was going on.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I was essentially embedded. I wasn't so much an entrepreneur, although I am an entrepreneur, have started quite a few companies actually. But in this role, I was actually observing all the different teams on our bus. I watched them as they came in and got up in front while the bus is rolling the first half hour out, and they're pitching each other. Here's my great idea as they introduce themselves. Then they sit down and they start affiliating into teams. We know that teams need to be small.
We're looking right now on the screen and with some of those things where you're going along, you have the things written on the windows, and here's a shot of like all the guys working hard. Well, was it mostly guys or were some women too?
It was a few. It was a few women, more and more every year, but everybody is using whatever you've got there. I mean, it was obviously these are online businesses we were starting. A lot of them are app-based, so you're creating an app.
We're also taking a look at, I think now we're looking at getting there into Austin. What was that moment like, getting off that bus?
We got into, this was actually San Antonio, was where we got off the bus at Rack Space, and they had a huge party for us. It was like 10 in the morning. A DJ, they had a stage set up, there was food. We hadn't seen food in 3 days, really, you know. We hadn't slept. The average was like 8 hours of sleep over 3 days, and all of a sudden we arrived. Every one of their employees is out there clapping and waving us like we were conquering heroes.
Nice.
And then we get up on stage and we're pitching, you know, to a whole panel of entrepreneurs and startup people, and it was pretty brutal.
Yeah, so there you were, Chris, right? Tell me about the pitch and that when you got there, you're like sleep deprived, bad diet for 3 days. So what happened?
We partied. It was ridiculous. After 8 hours of sleep, we arrive, and like he said, there's just 1,000 people there clapping for giving a standing O as soon as you walk into this building. They have food and drinks, and it was, I don't know, it was the rush. Everything was culminating, and it was actually surreal to, you know, pitch these guys that are multi-millionaire successful people already, and you just tell them, hey, this is what I did in 3 days. So
nice. Well, they saw the energy, I'm sure, coming out of there. But talk to me about, let's pick a time, 2 a.m. on the second night. What were you doing? What was happening?
I think I was still networking, and my team was busy at work, but I was pitching, and we had done so much work that I needed a break. So I was networking. I think I wandered back into the room about 4 a.m. We went and got some tacos. Oh, that was the third night. Maybe that was the second night?
Exactly.
It's all
as
a blur, right?
Yeah, I have no idea where I was at any point in time.
Some of them pulled all-nighters. I mean, I interviewed some that had stayed up literally because they finally had Wi-Fi connection when they got in the hotel, you know, so they don't want to let it go. Or the designers were saying, my hand was shaking so much on the bus, I'm glad to be on solid ground.
Yeah.
So when we did pitch in, you know, in a hotel for a few hours, they were busy as could be. So.
That's cool. Well, let me get a lesson from both of you. What was the first primary lesson you got from this experience?
Well, I learned that all those goals that I had going into it were always right in front of me, and this showed me that I had to just go out and take it, and you know, 3 days if that was possible, and then maybe I'll have a few hours less sleep at night this week, but I'll, you know, achieve one more goal, and that's the one thing that I can take away from it.
Cool. Thomas, 20 seconds.
I'm like, you know, don't be so patient. I'm a lot more impatient now. I get back and I realize I've run tech projects for 20 years. Now I realize you don't have to take weeks. You don't have to take months. You can take just 3 days and get something done. And it's amazing what you can get done with the right focus and the right team behind you.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. It's really cool stuff. If you want to see more videos from the road, go to NEOtropolis.org, and we will be back with some more program for you. From a focus on the ideas and excitement of the open road, let's go to Elyria, where an entrepreneur lab provides both ideas and practical tools for new entrepreneurs.
Schools usually offer a woodshop program, but Lorain County Community College is not doing business as usual with their new Fab Lab.
The Fabrication Lab provides the public with access to design and manufacturing gear that's usually found only in expensive research facilities. The first Fab Lab was opened by MIT professor Neil Gershenfeld in the 1990s. Lorain's lab was the second public facility in the country when it opened in 2005, following a visit by Gershenfeld.
He was talking to our high school students during the day, and one of the students was so excited, they raised their hand and they asked him if we could have a Fab Lab here. And within 3 or 4 months of the request, we managed to open a very small Fab Lab in about 1/4 of the space that you see here today.
Far from being a technological sandbox for anyone off the street, the lab cross-pollinates students, business owners, and community members.
The most amazing thing is that, you know, we have students that integrate with business people, you know, that come to use our facility, as well as people from the community. We have art students collaborating with business folks that are collaborating with retired people. And the next thing you know, you've got a group of people that never knew each other before that start to work together on a project. It's just really amazing.
One of those students is Noah Razor. He designed and built a boat in the lab that competed at the Fab 6 Symposium in Amsterdam, and now he's working on the propeller.
Initially, you designed this on the computer, Then you took it to have a 3D model made in the second machine.
Yes, yeah, the 3D model was just, it was just my prototype, basically, just to make sure everything looks right. I like to have a part I can hold, you know, make sure I can see if it's going to bend or break. I can see if there's any obvious weak points.
And then the final step in this process is putting the full-size piece of wood on this machine and having one of these made.
Exactly, yeah. I need a actual functional model. And while this is a prototype, this will be a full-scale functional model that will actually be able to be used.
So it all started with some mouse clicks on that first machine, and now it's coming through right here. Yes. The ShopBot will make it for you.
Yep, the ShopBot will make it, and what's nice about it is being that it's a propeller and it'll be spinning, the ShopBot's going to make it even.
Critics may scoff at tuition dollars going towards hunks of wood, but the lab does charge for materials.
The best part is it is entirely open to the public. Anyone can come in here, and the lab aides will teach you how to use anything. And it's so accessible and easy to use. I mean, it's really not hard. Whenever we have like sizable enough scraps, they get put into like a public pool and anyone can come in and use them. So not even with the materials, like you can come in here and make a prototype of what you want to make out of the scraps we have, and it's just free.
Yeah, like Aaron was talking about, sometimes it's free to help get that kind of help. It's good stuff, practical and intellectual support. If you want to see the whole piece on Lorain County Community College's Fab Lab, go to neotropolis.org. Now, if you watched NEOtropolis before, you recall we have our own big idea guy. Here's Craig James. Welcome, Craig.
Hey, Luke.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. So what do you have for me tonight? What's the big idea?
Well, actually, what's interesting tonight, Luke, is it's not what's the big idea, it's who's the big idea.
Yeah, so next week is why and how and when. Is it
Let's go with that. We might want to try that.
Good. What do you mean?
Okay, here's what I mean. Is you see, throughout time, all this stuff we've been talking about on the show, technology, innovation, all this stuff is shaping not just what we are, but who we are through hyperconnectivity. And I'd like to suggest there's a new term for entrepreneur, too. I call them neopreneurs.
Okay, neopreneur, Northeast Ohio, or what else? Well, what else are you adding in there?
There's a lot of them here in Northeast Ohio, but I'm talking about a new breed, borrowing the term, the Greek term neos, which means brand new. And this new breed of entrepreneur, well, they're hyperconnected yet independent. They're inventors. They're not doers. You see? And see, throughout this whole change and shift, these entrepreneurs, therefore, are not just business owners or building a business or trying to make money. They're artists, they're writers, they're designers, they're marketers, and thus, guess what? Through this connectivity, 3 billion people connected, we have what?
Wait, well, a lot of diversity, I imagine. There's 3 billion. I mean, what? Exactly. That's connectivity of, what, the last decade or something?
Within the last 5 years, even.
Okay.
Right? So if we have near 3 billion people connected, what happens is that it shapes everything we do, how we work, how we play. We're here on a campus in a university. It shapes how we educate, why we educate. So everything has changed.
Yeah, that's really interesting stuff. I like the who of entrepreneurship, the who of these connectivity stuff.
Matter of fact, there's even a shift towards social consciousness, civic entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs. Matter of fact, at commencement speeches, the words world and love are more than business, success, and money.
Excellent.
So these folks are the ones that are changing the world, and they're going to define the technologies like Chris that take us into the future.
Excellent. So where can I get more information about this?
Once again, cat-strat.com, and there's articles and books there we can share with you.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
So we're going to catch you next time, Craig, and we're going to make sure that you stay tuned and throw your comments at us, too. Now let's take a look at another entrepreneur's dream here in Northeast Ohio. The owner of Johnyville Slugger used to catch passes from Bernie Kosar while a wide receiver at the University of Miami. Now he's trying to catch customers for his custom bats. When you think of custom engraved bats, you might think of these little things. But in the store behind me, it's really a different ballpark. It's like the major leagues versus a rookie league. Let's go in and talk to the owner, Johnny S., about his business. Oh, and if you're wondering what this has to do with global forces in Northeast Ohio, wait till you hear his story. It was about a container ship full of wood in Japan and an opportunity to bring the wood back here and make custom engraved bats. It's all about how we reshape and resize the world in the global marketplace.
We had a fellow of mine that I did a lot of shipping with over the years, and one thing led to another. He got into a little bit of a financial pinch there, and when things were really at a crossroad, the emerald ash borer was terrorizing Michigan, and any woods that were caught on the water at that time that weren't properly documented with their being kiln dried. I acquired the wood, and at that point said, now what am I going to do? Because I was really just making $100. I was buying $100 every 3 or 4 months from him, and then the next thing you know, I've got 15,000. Yeah, it's a Jack and the Beanstalk type story, but it's one of those deals too that I love telling it to the younger kids that come in all the time, and they're looking at it like there's opportunity around us. There's all around us, and you're just looking for the thoughtful eye that catches it and says, "Hey, what can I do with this?"
Talk a little bit more about that sense of opportunity, because in a global marketplace, we look around and sometimes we think, oh, our jobs are being outsourced. Oh, we have too much competition. Oh, this person I'm talking to is in a different country, and we feel a threat. But you saw an opportunity. Why is that?
I think a lot of times what we do, everybody's so worried about how does it fit in to everything that we know, everything that we're comfortable with. And I think now, there's an old saying, I quote Franklin all the time, do great men make history, and history make great men. But we're at a time now where change is being imposed and pushed upon everybody. And the same amount of money basically in the system, but it circles differently now. And being that we're all so used to getting something where it's been dummied down, cheap and cheap, and how do we make it cheaper? Everybody thinks that that's the way to go. And I can't tell you how many guys that come into the shop and say, hey, if you can do this, you could do that, and just faster, 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 when in fact, all I've ever done, I tag each bat individually. It's dated, and it's dated on the actual day that it was made and what number it is. And the reason I do that is because you just get the stuff I made a year ago versus what it is now, even though it's state-of-the-art and the greatest thing in the history of the world a year ago. Now, today, the quality's even better. That's a big push for me, and making this an individual thing, taking it from not trying to be to the masses. There's a lot of people that come in here and say, hey, I could do it for a lot less, but not getting what I'm making here. So. Yeah.
There's almost a philosophy, Johnny, that I'm hearing from you, and having spent some time in your store. It's a certain kind of almost Asian philosophy of being in the moment, being with where you are and what you're doing, as opposed to chasing the eternal buck. So tell me some of your personal story. I mean, you're here in the store, but did you have a business background when you were coming up?
No, not at all. I was in corporate America for 27 years, up until my 50th, it's been 1 year now, and loved it. I worked for a lot of great people, and great run at it. I mean, and it just, you get to that point in time, and particularly now, man, people are down. There's so many people are just beaten down, and I just look at it that this is just such a great opportunity, great time to be alive. Thinking about one of the things that just sticks in the back of my mind is I just someday want my grandkids to look back and say, when did Grandpa start this? During the Great Depression. Because this is the time. This is the time to make a move when people, if you shave that face in the mirror and you know what you're made of, and you say, hey, I'm staying within my means, and everything, is this realistic? Is it something I love to do? And you work the numbers, and like I did, and everything else, and to jump, it wasn't even jump in. It was just enjoy the warm bath water and just keep going. It's been great since I started in the middle of what I know is very, very difficult times for so many people.
Yeah. So it's almost as if this is not a man cave, but kind of a man above the surface and coming at his life that way.
If you look on both sides of the wall, we address the whole baseball thing, but really the vast majority of what's here has very little or nothing to do with baseball. It's getting a life story told on a bat. And you're watching guys who've, have been affluent, they're well-to-do men even, and the reaction of getting their life told on a man club, a man stick, is just incredible.
It's like almost hieroglyphics.
It etches it, and I say it's not cast in stone, but it is etched in fossilized rock, kiln-dried wood. And I go, there's just such a love affair where guys see it. They see the colors I'm doing in this, and I school people through it. How big is the guy? That's a issue. You don't give a 31-inch bat to a 6'5" guy. I taper that, the colors. It seems like all the times when I'm making a bat for an older gentleman, he's 50 and older, my age and older. They all want the oaks and natural stains, whereas the younger guys tend to get the brilliant reds and the blues and my pearl whites that are, you know, wedding gifts, the greatest wedding gifts. And but really what I felt in my heart of hearts, because I watched it over and over, was always just blown away with the reaction and then to see what came after, which that's a big piece of my business. Corporate America, guys come in and get their logos and their guy's signature and on this size bat. And then you watch them, I said, it's a big thing. You got to come in here, you got to pay me, and you got to hug me. And that's how I know I did my job.
That's
and I just get it all the time. I live for it. It's to know that I'm going to be on somebody's mantle for the next 50 years, or that's his, you know, one fella that was, you know, pried out of his limp and lifeless hand. You know, that's my Johnyville Slugger.
Well, like you said, you know, you give the customers the hug. Let me give them a hug.
The hug. And they're hugging.
Just had to sneak in some baseball content here just 2 days before the Indians opener. So here's Erin Hollenbaugh telling me what's going on. Has people been responding to this question?
Yeah, people have been claiming some ideas as their own. So first we have Jill, who said, I thought of a device to find a lost remote control, but it's already invented.
What do you think that is? I mean, is there like beeper?
Well, I think they have it for like your keys and for your iPhone.
Okay.
Yeah, I imagine it's out there. Terry Heller says a ringtone, but actually they're called a ringback. That was my idea. So. And then finally, we have a person who says that she has been, or he, I should say, has been doing press-on nails basically for the last 20 years on feet. And even though they were getting laughed at, now Sally Hansen and Lee Press-Ons are doing well with this.
Absolutely.
So,
are you kidding me? I was looking
Quite a
at some
market.
press-on nails for Halloween, maybe.
Or Easter.
So, you know, you heard a little bit of that interview with the entrepreneurs. Did that sound like people were really declaring what they were going to be and how they were going to be?
Absolutely. And, you know, I only got a little bit of time to talk with the two guests that you had on, but you can really see that people embody that whole identity, that whole image. And it's just, it must have been so exciting to be on that bus and to really feel that energy around you.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much, Erin.
Thank you.
That's it for the look at some of the impacts of technology on entrepreneurship here in Northeast Ohio. If you have any ideas what we should cover on future episodes of NEOtropolis, how technology and global forces affect your life, get in touch, neotropolis.org, or leave a comment on our Facebook page. Next week, Rituals and Reasons, including a look at coffee shops. I'm Luke Frazier.
Funding for NEOtropolis has been provided by the following.
I'm a process engineer at a high-tech company in Ohio. We're developing cool new liquid crystal devices, like the Boogie Board tablet. It's based on technology created at Kent State University. Yeah, the research teams at Kent State are always coming up with discoveries. Discoveries that end up in real-world products. In fact, you'd be amazed at all the great things coming out of Kent State. I should know, I'm one of them. My name is Diaz McDaniel, and I'm a proud graduate of Kent State University.
The John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, supporting transformational ideas that promote informed and engaged communities.